16 Years in 16 Seconds, The Sammy Lee Story, by Paula Yu, illustrated by Dom Lee. The sign at the swimming pool read, "Members Only." 12-year-old Sammy Lee knew exactly what that sign meant. Only whites were permitted to enter, even though it was a public pool. This was the practice in 1932. Sammy would have to wait until Wednesday when people of color were allowed to go inside. In the meantime, he would get no relief from blazing California summer sun. Sammy clutched the chain-link gate. He gazed in envy at the children splashing and shouting in the water. He watched as a boy stood on the diving board and held out his arms. The boy flew high in the air and broke the surface of the water with hardly a splash. I want to learn how to do that, Sammy thought. The following Wednesday, Sammy was the first one through the open gate. He raced to the springboard, stood on the edge, and spread his arms like wings. He took a deep breath and leaped as high as he could. Sammy soared. "I'm flying," he thought. He tucked his knees against his chest and spun into a somersault. Splat! Sammy splashed everyone, including his friend Hartcrum, who was also limited to using the pool on Wednesdays because he was African American. Hart challenged Sammy to do more than one somersault. Sammy, eager to show off, raced back to the springboard. Try as he might, Sammy could only complete one somersault. Hart stopped teasing Sammy and offered to help him instead. He followed Sammy onto the diving board, and together they jumped. When they landed, Hart's extra weight helped Sammy leap higher into the air. This time, Sammy completed 1.5 somersaults before hitting the water. He grinned, eager to practice again with Hart. Over the summer, Sammy discovered he had a natural talent for diving, but his father wanted him to stop wasting time with sports and instead become a doctor. Sammy's parents had left Korea for a better life in America. His father worked hard at their family's restaurant, saving money in the bank and putting his tips in a shoebox for his son's future. In America, Sammy's father said, you can achieve anything you set your heart to. One morning, Sammy and his father drove to the market downtown to pick up vegetables for their restaurant. The streets were lined with flags from different countries. Sammy's father explained that Los Angeles was hosting the Olympics and the flags represented the participating countries. The gold medal winners were considered the greatest athletes in the world. A chill ran through Sammy. Although his father wanted him to be a doctor, Sammy knew he wanted to be an Olympic champion. Sammy decided that diving would be his ticket to the Olympics, but he knew sooner or later he would have to find a coach to help him improve his diving skills. He couldn't just rely on his friend Hart giving him advice. In the summer of 1938, when he was 18, Sammy attended a swim and diving competition. Between meets, he sneaked into the pool area to practice. When Sammy came up for air after his first dive, he heard one of the coaches shout, "That's the lousiest dive I've ever seen!" Sammy spotted a tall, heavy-set man at the edge of the pool. "You get back up there and practice until I say you can quit." The man barked, "Stand straight. Spread your arms out more. Your arch is too deep." Sammy wondered why this stranger was suddenly giving him orders. He obeyed anyways, curious to see if the man's advice would help improve his dives. By the end of the day, Sammy was exhausted, but he had never dived better. "I'm Jim Ryan," the man finally said. "I'm your new coach." Because Sammy could only use the local pool one day a week, Coach Ryan had him dig a giant hole in the coach's backyard. They filled this pit with sand and installed a diving board above it. Sammy trained every day in that sand pit. The gritty sand filled his ears and his palms were lined with grime. When it rained, the wet sand weighed down his swimming trunks. Once, Sammy slipped and cut his forehead, but he didn't give up. He never disobeyed Coach Ryan's endless orders. To keep from hurting himself, Sammy had to land on his feet after each dive into the sand pit. So he enrolled in gymnastics class at school to help him develop stronger leg muscles. As a result, Sammy was able to jump much higher off the diving board than other divers. Performing difficult dives became easy for him, and Sammy earned a reputation for his graceful and seemingly effortless dives. Although Sammy was exhausted, every night from a full day of school Although Sammy was exhausted every night from a full day at school, followed by diving practice and homework, he managed to keep up his grades and earn all A's. As Sammy's classmates voted him most likely to succeed, and he was the first non-white student elected as student body president. Occidental College in Los Angeles, impressed with Sammy's achievements, offered him a full scholarship. Despite his academic and athletic success, Sammy still faced discrimination. During his senior year of high school, Sammy could not attend his own prom. It was held at Pasadena Civic Auditorium, and only white students were allowed to enter. That injustice angered Sammy. How could his father insist that Sammy could achieve anything in America when he wasn't even allowed to attend his own prom? Diving was the only world where Sammy felt he belonged. Even though he had graduated at the top of his high school class, his grades dropped during his first year of college because he spent more time diving than studying. Sammy and his father fought over the grades. Sammy didn't understand why his father refused to support his dream of becoming an Olympic champion. Then one afternoon, Sammy witnessed a rude customer berating his father at the restaurant. Later, Sammy asked his father how could he allow people to treat him that way. His father answered that instead of losing his temper, he acted with honor. He explained that if Sammy became a doctor, he would get the respect he deserved. In America, you can achieve anything if you set your heart to it, he reminded Sammy. For the first time, Sammy understood why his father pressured him to do well in school. So he struck a deal with him. Sammy could dive as long as his grades were good enough for medical school. While studying to be a doctor, Sammy continued to enter diving competitions. He hoped to qualify for the next Olympic Games in Helsinki, Finland, but because of World War II, the 1940 Olympics were canceled. Sammy was crushed. He thought his dream of becoming an Olympic champion had ended. In 1943, Sammy's father suffered a heart attack and died. Sammy was devastated. Then he remembered his father's shoebox, the one filled with money for Sammy's future. He could not let his father's dreams die. Sammy took a break from diving and worked hard to get accepted into this special United States Army medical training program. He discovered he did have a passion for medicine and became a doctor in 1946. Sammy started working at different hospitals in California, but he missed diving. So he found a pool near each hospital and practiced diving after his shifts ended. Still dreaming of the Olympics, Sammy entered the National Diving Championship in 1946. Even though he did not have much time to train for the event, Sammy won the high platform dive with the highest score ever. Despite his achievements, Sammy continued to face discrimination. Once, after performing a dive exhibition with his friends, Sammy was forbidden from entering a restaurant to have dinner with them. And Sammy was still restricted from using some pools except on assigned days. Instead of getting angry over such unfair treatment, Sammy decided to prove his worth at the upcoming 1948 Olympic Games in London. He received special permission from the Army to take off time for training. At the age of 28, Sammy qualified to be a member of the U.S. Olympic diving team. The diving competition was held at the Empire Pool in Wembley Stadium in London. Sammy was in awe as he entered the stadium. Here he was, the son of a Korean immigrant, representing the United States at the Olympics. He knew his family would be proud. Sammy's first diving event was a 3-meter springboard dive. He was nervous, and the excitement was almost unbearable. At previous competitions, Sammy would usually put lamb's wool in his ears to block out the noise of the crowd so he could concentrate. But Sammy was finally at the Olympics. He didn't want to miss a thing. He took out his earplugs so he could hear everything. Sammy stood on the diving board. He was sure everyone could hear his heart beating. Then he focused himself, jumped high, and made one of his best dives ever. It won him the bronze medal. Sammy was happy but not satisfied. He wanted to win a gold medal. He knew his strength lay in the upcoming 10-meter platform event. Here was his chance to show he was the greatest diver in the world. Right before the event, Sammy heard a rumor that there might be some prejudice against him because he wasn't white. This only added to his determination to win. Sammy remained calm. "I'm going for the gold," he told his teammates. Before climbing up the ladder, he no longer wanted to win just for himself. He wanted to win to prove that no one should be judged by the color of his or her skin. For his final dive in the 10-meter platform event, Sammy decided to perform the forward 3.5 somersault. This was a very dangerous move. The slightest miscalculation in timing could lead to serious, even fatal injury. Sammy faced a crowd of thousands. His mouth was dry. He heard the sound of water lapping against the sides of the pool, the murmuring of the people, the beating of his heart. Never before had Sammy felt such intense pressure. He had trained 16 years for this, a moment that would last barely 16 seconds, from the time he dived to when the scores would be revealed. Sammy closed his eyes. In his mind, he was 12 years old again. It was Wednesday at the pool. He and Hart were practicing somersaults. Somehow, this image calmed Sammy's nerves. He opened his eyes, took a deep breath, and leaped off the edge of the platform. Sammy flew through the air. He did 1, then 2, then 3.5 somersaults. The crowd gasped. As Sammy surfaced, drops of water trickled over his eyes. He shook his head and blinked. Then he saw the scores: 7.0, 9.0, 9.5, 9.5, 9.5, 9.5, and then 10.0. 10! He had a perfect score. Sammy Lee was an Olympic champion. Sammy stood on the podium as the United States flag was raised high. "I did it," he thought, beaming with pride. He had won the gold medal, not only for himself, but for his father, Coach Ryan, and Hart Crum. He had also won the gold medal for his country. Someday, he hoped all swimming pools would be open every day of the week for all Americans. The crowd roared. Voices filled the cavernous stadium. But all Sammy could hear were his father's words: "In America, you can achieve anything if you set your heart to it." Arthur's note. Sammy Lee was born on August 1st, 1920 in Fresno, California, the youngest child of Sun Ki and Un Ki Chun Ri. They later moved to Highland Park, California, where Sammy grew up with his 2 older sisters, Dolly and Mary. Although Sammy always dreamed of being an Olympic champion, he first followed his father's dream of becoming a doctor. Finally, at the age of 28, he also made his own dream come true. At the 1948 Olympic Games in London, England, Dr. Sammy Lee became the first Asian American to win a gold medal. He won the gold medal in the 10-meter platform diving event and the bronze medal in the 3-meter springboard event. After the 1948 Olympics, Sammy Lee served as a doctor in the Korean War. Then, at the 1952 Olympic Games in Helsinki, Finland, Dr. Lee became the first man ever to defend an Olympic platform diving title. He was also the first male diver to win gold medals for diving in 2 consecutive Olympics. In 1953, Sammy Lee was the first Asian American awarded the James E. Sullivan Award. This award is given annually by the Amateur Athletic Union to the top amateur athlete in the United States. It is considered the most prestigious sports award in the country. Dr. Lee coached diver Bob Webster to Olympic gold medals in 1960 and 1964. Greg Louganis to a silver medal at the 1976 Olympic Games. Today, at age 84 years old, Dr. Sammy Lee is still an active athlete. He lives in California with his wife, Rosalind. They have 2 children and 3 grandchildren. Paula, 2004.